You've been taught your whole life to be nice, to smile, to say yes when everything inside you is screaming no, to make everyone else comfortable, even if it costs you your own peace. And for a long time, you believed that being the nice girl was the right thing, the safe thing, the expected thing, because that's what good girls do, right? But let me tell you something that might shake you. Being the nice girl is destroying your confidence. It's shrinking your voice. It's draining your power, and you deserve better than that. You think being nice earns love, but all it earns is exhaustion. You rush to help. You stay quiet to avoid conflict. You apologize before you've even done something wrong. You put everyone's needs above your own, and then you wonder why you feel invisible. Let me make this painfully clear. You don't owe anyone your silence. You don't owe anyone your time. You don't owe anyone your constant yes. Nice girls don't win, honest girls do, boundaried girls do, self-respecting girls do. Being a nice girl is not kindness, it's self-abandonment. There is a difference between being kind and being controlled by the fear of disappointing people. Kindness is intentional. Kindness comes from strength. Kindness is a choice. But being the nice girl, that's a survival strategy. That's decades of conditioning telling you that your worth depends on how small and agreeable you can make yourself. No more. You want to know what real confidence looks like? It's not a perfect outfit. It's not the ability to speak flawlessly. It's not walking into a room and being loud. Real confidence is the courage to disappoint the wrong people. It's saying, no, that doesn't work for me. It's saying, I'm not responsible for your emotions. It's saying, I matter too. Because you do, stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You have spent years holding yourself back because you don't want to be too much. Too emotional, too direct, too ambitious. But here's the truth. The people who are intimidated by your strength are the same people who benefited from your weakness. Let that sink in. When you stop being the nice girl, you stop letting people walk all over you. You stop being the backup plan. You stop being the emotional caretaker for everyone else, and you finally become someone you recognize, someone powerful, someone clear, someone real. Here's your turning point. Starting today, stop over-explaining, stop apologizing for existing, stop saying yes out of fear, stop carrying the emotional weight for people who wouldn't lift a finger for you. Instead, choose boundaries, choose honesty, choose respect, choose yourself. You are allowed to make decisions that others don't like. You are allowed to outgrow people who only love the nice, quiet, agreeable version of you. You are allowed to rewrite the rules of your life. Let me leave you with this. The world doesn't need more nice girls. It needs more women who know their worth, women who speak their truth, women who stop performing and start living, women who stop seeking permission and start standing tall. So stop being the nice girl, be the strong one, the honest one, the unapologetic one, the woman who finally chooses herself, because when you do, your entire life changes. Being nice is something you were praised for since childhood. You were told to be polite, agreeable, and helpful. You learned quickly that when you smiled, nodded, and didn't argue, people liked you. Teachers approved of you. Family members called you such a good girl. And because you were rewarded for being pleasant, you built your identity around making sure everyone else felt comfortable. But what nobody told you is that this version of niceness often has nothing to do with genuine kindness. It's about survival, it's about fear, it's about making yourself small to avoid disapproval or conflict. And over time, this pattern of behavior slowly becomes a habit of self-abandonment. When you say yes when you want to say no, that's self-abandonment. When you let someone cross a line because you don't want to make a scene, that's self-abandonment. When you apologize for things that aren't your fault, when you soften your tone to protect someone's feelings, when you pretend something doesn't bother you just to keep the peace, those actions don't come from kindness. They come from fear. Fear of being disliked, fear of being judged, fear of being called difficult, dramatic, emotional, or rude. Every time you silence your voice to maintain harmony, you chip away at your self-respect. You teach yourself that other people's comfort is more important than your truth. You reinforce the idea that your needs are optional, your boundaries are flexible, and your emotions are inconveniences. Eventually, you stop even checking in with yourself because you're so conditioned to check in with everyone else first, and the world gets very comfortable with your silence. People begin to expect your compliance. They expect your yes. They expect you to bend, to adjust, to swallow your feelings and absorb theirs. The nice girl becomes the emotional sponge for everyone around her, draining herself dry while everyone else benefits from her lack of boundaries. And the saddest part is that people rarely notice the toll it takes on you because you hide it so well. You smile through discomfort. You laugh off disrespect. You pretend you're okay even when you're not. You become a master of masking your own needs. The truth is that being nice, when it consistently comes at your expense, is not kindness at all. Kindness is a choice you make freely, not a role you play out of fear. Kindness has strength behind it, clarity behind it, intention behind it. It allows you to care for others without abandoning yourself. But the performance of niceness, the one rooted in people, pleasing, teaches you to prioritize acceptance over authenticity. It teaches you to disappear in your own life, and the longer you play the nice girl, the harder it becomes to recognize who you are underneath it. You forget what you want. You forget what upsets you. You forget what your voice even sounds like when it's honest. The real you gets buried under years of quiet compliance. When you look at Keynote 1, understand this. The problem isn't kindness. The problem is losing yourself to earn approval. Being nice may keep others comfortable, but it keeps you confined, and your life is too big, too important, and too valuable to be lived through self-abandonment. You've spent so much of your life believing that being available, agreeable, and emotionally supportive is simply what you're supposed to do. You've been conditioned to think that a good woman is someone who's always there, always patient, always understanding, always willing to soften the blow for everyone else. But Keynote 2 shatters that illusion completely. You don't owe anyone your constant yes, your silence, or your emotional caretaking. Those things are gifts, not obligations. And when they become expectations, you begin to lose yourself. When people are used to you being the one who smooths everything over, they stop considering whether they're asking too much. They don't notice how heavy the load is because you carry it so quietly. They don't hear the internal arguments you have with yourself every time you want to say no but feel guilty. They don't see the exhaustion behind your eyes when you're trying to be the steady one for everyone else. All they see is the version of you that you've always shown them, the dependable one, the she'll handle it one, the emotional cushion that absorbs their stress, their frustration, their mistakes, and even their disrespect. Your silence, too, becomes a habit. You stay quiet because you don't want to hurt feelings or cause tension. You swallow your opinions because you don't want to be labeled dramatic or sensitive. You let people's comments slide because correcting them feels confrontational. But every time you choose silence over truth, you're trading your voice for temporary peace, and that peace doesn't last, not really. It just piles up resentment inside you, layer after layer, until your own needs are buried under the expectations of others. And emotional caretaking, this might be the heaviest burden of all. You've learned to manage other people's moods like it's your responsibility. You tiptoe around their triggers, you anticipate their reactions. You absorb their anxiety, their anger, their sadness, and you try to fix it. You try to make everything feel okay, even when it's not your job. Because somewhere along the line, you were taught that your worth is tied to how well you take care of others. But emotional caretaking is not love, it's emotional labor, and when it's one-sided, it becomes emotional depletion. The truth is that your time, your energy, your emotional bandwidth, they are limited resources. They are not endless wells that you can pour from without consequence. Every yes you give costs you something. Every moment of silence costs you a piece of your truth. Every time you take responsibility for someone else's emotions, you lose the capacity to handle your own. People may not tell you this, but your boundaries are allowed to exist even if they inconvenience others. Your no does not make you rude. Your honesty does not make you unkind. Your desire for respect does not make you demanding. You are not responsible for keeping everyone around you comfortable at the expense of your own well-being. That is not compassion. That is conditioning, and once you start understanding that you owe nothing to anyone at the cost of yourself, a shift happens. You start listening to your feelings instead of suppressing them. You start recognizing the difference between generosity and obligation. You start valuing your emotional space as much as you value everyone else's. And slowly, you reclaim the parts of yourself that were lost to years of overgiving. That is the heart of Keynote 2, reclaiming ownership of your emotions, your time, and your voice. You are not here to be a perpetual reservoir of comfort for others. You are here to live your own life, not to manage everyone else's. You've spent years trying to avoid disappointing people. You monitor their reactions, tiptoe around their expectations, and make decisions based on how they might feel instead of what you actually want. You've been taught that being liked is safer than being honest, that keeping the peace matters more than speaking your truth. But Keynote 3 flips that idea upside down. Real confidence isn't about being bold, loud, or fearless. Real confidence is the courage to disappoint the wrong people. It's the ability to make choices that honor your own needs, even if someone else doesn't understand, approve, or benefit from those choices. The truth is, disappointment is unavoidable. No matter how perfect you try to be, someone will always want more, need more, expect more. The moment you stop stretching yourself thin, someone will be upset. The moment you stop saying yes automatically, someone will be frustrated. The moment you speak up, someone will think you're too much. For most of your life, you've tried to prevent this outcome. You've twisted yourself into a shape that keeps everyone comfortable except you. You've believed that approval equals safety, and that rejection means you did something wrong. But confidence grows the moment you stop chasing validation. When you decide that your own needs are legitimate, that your boundaries matter, and that your life doesn't have to revolve around avoiding other people's disappointment, everything changes. The people who respect you won't vanish. The relationships worth keeping won't break. The opportunities meant for you won't disappear. Only the wrong people fall away. The ones who relied on your silence, your compliance, your overgiving. Think about how many decisions you've made just to keep someone else happy. How many times you've agreed to plans you didn't want, accepted behavior that hurt you, or stayed quiet when your voice mattered. Think about the situations where you erased your own needs just to keep someone else from feeling uncomfortable. That isn't confidence, it's fear disguised as kindness, and it's a cycle that never ends until you decide that your peace is worth more than temporary approval. Confidence is built through small acts of self-respect. It's choosing to say no even when your voice shakes. It's choosing honesty over ease. It's choosing to protect your energy instead of pouring it into people who take it for granted. Confidence is understanding that someone else's disappointment is not your responsibility. Their emotions belong to them. Your well-being belongs to you. And here's what's powerful. When you start disappointing the wrong people, the right people begin to show up. The ones who appreciate your boundaries. The ones who want the real you, not the edited, agreeable version. The ones who don't crumble when you speak your truth. You create space for relationships that are balanced, mutual, and rooted in respect. Your life becomes clearer when you stop fearing disappointment. You stop explaining yourself endlessly. You stop apologizing for being honest. You stop shrinking. You stop performing. And you finally step into a version of yourself who feels grounded, certain, and free. That's what Keynote 3 is about. Giving yourself permission to choose your own inner peace over someone else's temporary comfort. Because the people who truly belong in your life will not leave when you stop being convenient. They will only get closer when you start being real. You've spent so much time trying to make yourself smaller, quieter, softer, easier, because somewhere along the way you learned that standing in your full power makes people uncomfortable. You were taught to measure your worth by how agreeable you could be, how gently you could speak, how little space you could take. So you lowered your voice, softened your opinions, and filtered your truth so it wouldn't ruffle feathers. You called it being polite, or being considerate, or avoiding drama. But really, it was fear. Fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of being called difficult or intimidating. And Keynote 4 exposes the truth you've been avoiding. Every time you shrink yourself to make others feel comfortable, you make yourself invisible. You've probably noticed how often you hold back. You think twice before sharing your ideas. You hesitate before expressing your needs. You replay conversations in your head to make sure you didn't sound too emotional, too direct, too confident. You adjust your tone to match what others prefer, and you pretend something doesn't bother you because you don't want to seem sensitive. You silence your instincts, your creativity, your opinions, all to maintain an image of someone who is easy to be around. But easy for who? For them, not for you. When you shrink yourself, people only see the version of you that you've edited. They don't see your strength, your intelligence, your ambition, your individuality. They see the quiet, agreeable shadow you've trained yourself to become. You might think that being liked is the reward for your self-restraint, but it's not. People don't truly connect with you. They connect with the watered-down version you present. And deep down, that leaves you feeling unseen, misunderstood, and replaceable. The more you silence your voice, the more you disconnect from it. You start believing your opinions don't matter. You start doubting your instincts. You stop trusting your own judgment. When you constantly hide your true self to keep the peace, your inner world becomes a place where your desires, dreams, and values aren't allowed to breathe. But your soul doesn't vanish. It grows restless. It pushes against the walls you built around it, begging for space, craving expression, wanting to exist without apology. Shrinking yourself might avoid conflict in the moment, but it creates a different kind of conflict, an internal one. You feel the weight of unspoken words. You feel the exhaustion of pretending. You feel the frustration of being underestimated because people don't know who you really are. You start to resent the relationships, jobs, or environments where you feel you must stay small to belong. And that resentment isn't a sign that you're ungrateful. It's a sign that you're outgrowing the limitations you placed on yourself. What happens when you stop shrinking? You start showing people the real you. You speak with clarity instead of hesitation. You express your needs without apologizing. You share your ideas without downplaying them. Some people won't like this version of you because they were comfortable with the quiet version who never challenged them. But others will admire you. They will respect you. They will finally see you. Your voice was never the problem. The world simply benefited from your silence. When you stop shrinking, you stop hiding. And when you stop hiding, you finally start living as the woman you were always meant to be. There's a moment in every woman's life when she realizes that the people who praised her for being nice, easy, or so understanding were praising qualities that made their lives easier, not hers. That's what Keynote 5 is about. The people who liked you when you were quiet, agreeable, and endlessly accommodating benefited from your lack of boundaries. They weren't applauding your kindness. They were applauding your convenience. And once you begin to grow, to speak up, to demand respect, those same people suddenly have a problem. Not because you've changed into someone worse, but because you've changed into someone they can no longer control. Think back to all the times people admired how patient you were, how you never made a fuss, how you always said yes, how you forgave too quickly, how you tolerated behavior that hurt you. They admired your tolerance, not realizing it was actually self-sacrifice. They loved that you didn't challenge them. They loved that you bent to fit their needs. They loved that you put their comfort above your own. And they interpreted your lack of resistance as virtue instead of what it really was, fear, conditioning, or a deep desire to be loved. But the moment you start creating boundaries, the dynamic shifts. You begin to say no. You stop over-explaining. You stand up for yourself. You remove yourself from situations that drain you. You stop catering to people's emotional needs at the expense of your own. You start giving the same loyalty and care to yourself that you once gave freely to everyone else, and suddenly the praise disappears. People who once adored you grow distant or irritated. People who relied on your silence become uncomfortable. People who enjoyed your emotional labor feel abandoned. Why? Because your growth exposes their entitlement. When you begin to respect yourself, they can no longer take advantage of your compliance. They lose the version of you that served them, not the version of you that served yourself. And most people don't like losing access to benefits they never earned. This is why becoming stronger, clearer, and more self-respecting often feels lonely at first. You start losing people you thought were loyal, but they were only loyal to the version of you that didn't ask for much. They stayed as long as you were small, agreeable, and predictable. When you outgrow the role they placed you in, they either leave or try to push you back into it, but their discomfort is proof of your growth. When the wrong people fall away, it creates space for the right ones to enter. People who don't love you because you accommodate them, but because you're authentic. These people thrive around your boundaries. They respect your voice, your energy, and your honesty. They don't panic when you say no. They don't guilt-trip you for having needs. They don't expect you to carry emotional weight that isn't yours. Losing people isn't always a loss. Sometimes letting go is the first step toward becoming the person you were meant to be. The people who truly value you won't disappear when you grow. They'll rise with you. The ones who leave were only attached to the version of you that was easier to use. And your life becomes lighter, freer, and more aligned the moment you stop shrinking to keep those people comfortable. You've spent so much of your life believing that choosing yourself is selfish, that putting your needs first is somehow wrong, that prioritizing your peace means you're neglecting or abandoning someone else. You were raised to think that a good woman gives endlessly, loves endlessly, forgives endlessly, and stretches herself far beyond what's healthy. So you learned to sacrifice yourself because it felt like the noble thing to do. But Keynote 6 breaks that belief open. Choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. It's survival. It's the only way to build a life where you aren't constantly depleted, disappointed, or disappearing into the background of your own story. You've been conditioned to measure your worth by how much you can endure, how much you can give, and how well you can hold everything together for everyone else. You've become the caretaker, the emotional anchor, the quiet strength behind every crisis, the one who's always fine, even when you're falling apart. And because you rarely choose yourself, others overlook your needs, not out of cruelty, but because you've trained them to believe you don't have any. You've made self-neglect seem effortless. You've hidden your exhaustion behind patience, your frustration behind smiles, your brokenness behind resilience. But something inside you knows this isn't sustainable. You feel it every time you say yes when you're exhausted. You feel it every time you comfort someone who never checks on you. You feel it every time you give and give, only to feel empty afterward. You feel it in the resentment that builds quietly in your chest because you're always showing up for people who rarely show up for you. And that resentment isn't you being ungrateful. It's the signal that you've abandoned yourself for too long. Choosing yourself means recognizing that you matter too. Your needs matter. Your time matters. Your feelings matter. Your dreams matter. It means finally acknowledging that you deserve the same care, protection, and attention that you've spent years giving to everyone else. It means honoring your boundaries, not as a punishment to others, but as a promise to yourself. It means giving yourself permission to rest, to say no, to walk away, to speak up, to want more, to expect respect, to protect your peace even if it disappoints someone. When you start choosing yourself, people may not understand at first. They may question why you're changing. They may accuse you of being distant or selfish, but their confusion is only a reflection of how accustomed they were to your self-neglect. You are not becoming selfish. You are becoming whole. You're waking up to the truth that you cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot be everything for everyone, and you cannot keep sacrificing your happiness just to maintain relationships that only function when you're losing pieces of yourself. Choosing yourself doesn't mean you stop loving others. It means you stop abandoning yourself to love them. It means you start building a life where you are included, where your voice is heard, where your needs are respected, and where your well-being is prioritized. And when you do that, your relationships naturally shift. The ones built on imbalance fade. The ones built on mutual respect grow stronger. And most importantly, you begin to recognize your own worth, not because someone else validates it, but because you finally give yourself the love you've been withholding. Choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's the most important promise you'll ever make: to honor the woman you are, protect the woman you're becoming, and never again abandon yourself for approval. You've spent years molding yourself into who the world wanted you to be: quiet, agreeable, patient, endlessly giving. But that version of you was built on fear, not truth. Today, you're standing at a crossroads. On one side is the woman you've been trained to be. On the other is the woman you were born to become, and the choice is yours. No one else can reclaim your voice. No one else can set your boundaries. No one else can choose you on your behalf. You are the only one who can decide that your life is worth more than the approval of people who never truly saw you. You are the only one who can say, "This time I matter to." You are the only one who can step out of the shadows and into the bold, honest, powerful version of yourself you've kept hidden for far too long. So let this be your moment, your turning point, not tomorrow, not next year, now. Stop shrinking, stop apologizing, stop living small just to make others comfortable. Your voice is ready to be heard. Your boundaries are ready to be honored. Your life is ready to be lived on your terms. Walk forward with the strength you were born with, not the fear you were taught. Walk forward as the woman who is done abandoning herself. Walk forward knowing that choosing yourself is not selfish. It is your liberation. This is the beginning of your power. This is the beginning of your truth. This is the beginning of you.